Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority focus on the marketplace. And this is our second, if you will, installment of the series that we are very excited about. And we're excited for a whole host of reasons, but I think when you think of the different instrumentalities of the government, when you ask most people what exactly is the role and the purpose of those instrumentalities, most people tend not to know what really they're all about. This show is intended to change that, to change the conversation, to give a better understanding, a better scope of what exactly is the EDA, their role and responsibility. Now, I'm your host, and today we have some special people with us this afternoon. We have, of course, my co-host today is Jennifer Nugent-Hill, and she is the Assistant CEO of the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority. And we also have Andrew Klutz.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't, cannibalize your name. And he is the Director of North America for Oxford Intelligence, who heads up the marketing initiative for the Virgin Islands EDA. Welcome, folks. Welcome once again
Thank
to
you.
the EDA focus on the marketplace. Now, in the first installment, we started talking about globalization and whether or not the stakeholders, the folks, the good folks of the Virgin Islands understood really what globalization meant and the role and how we should posture ourselves in terms of this new global environment. Let me give you an example. This particular format will lend to the fact that the EDA realized that in order for them to be ahead of the game and ahead of everybody else in the 21st century, they understand that technology has to be leveraged in order to effectively connect with whom they have to get information out to. So, for example, we have this wonderful smart board. And what will happen, as you can see, is it has a nice logo of the EDA, but when, let's say, for example, if someone can't be here today, we'll be able to pull up a Skype conversation with the individual. And so it's very interactive. It's live. It's in this broadcast is live, and we're able to interactively communicate with folks via the technological platform. Also, we have the phone, where we will have times where we're focusing on in a very specific subject matter, a project, and we're going to have a roundtable discussion. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the phone lines to the general public to be able to invite them to call in and ask questions about the focus, this particular subject matter. And of course, the ability to stream this same, if you will, content, it will be streamed live on the internet as well. And you will have an opportunity not only to call in via telephone, but also you'll be able to go to a particular site and interactively leave comments, ask questions via a chat room. Mm-hmm. So these are the kind of things we're talking about doing in terms of making scalable, this type of format available to the general public. So if we can talk about the specific assignment tasks that you have, and I know, Jennifer, I would like for you to, if you will, give us kind of formally introduce
Sure.
Andrew and allow Andrew to, talk a little bit about his role as well.
I'm glad to be co-hosting this with you today, Anthony. This portion of the Virgin Islands Economic Development focus on the VI marketplace is going to take our audience listening and watching and Skyping and streaming to where EDA recognizes the world is our marketplace. And we are going to talk about the various strategies that EDA is using to get the word out to the community locally, of course, and to the world about the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority and how businesses can come to our territory and thrive. So one of the things, Anthony, that EDA is concerning itself with is to produce a marketing strategy that is targeted and focused. And when we say, how do we get the word out to the world? I think there is something that I learned very recently, and I learned it from you, Anthony, when we were talking about if someone should go on the internet and type in, where is the best place to do business? And they type in, and what should come up? Boom, it ought to be the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Absolutely.
The second thing that you challenged me with as we were discussing how do we get the word out about the Virgin Islands marketplace, you said to me, I want you to type in the best place for creative tax incentive program to encourage business growth. And I looked at you and I said, okay, Anthony, what is you trying to tell me now? And I typed in, and the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority or the U.S. Virgin Islands didn't come up in that search. Well,
Were you surprised by that?
well, I was disappointed and somewhat concerned because I thought to myself, what we have in the arsenal of the government of the Virgin Islands to encourage businesses to come here is awesome, but the world doesn't know it. And I said to you, okay, Anthony, so what is it that I need to do? And in that discussion, I went back to the team and to the CEO, and I said, we have got to find a way to do two things at the same time. Use technology to get the word out. So online marketing is an incredible tool that we have available to us. We also recognize that a lot of our members of our community watch TV. They actually, in particular, look at the public access channel for information. And I say, well, why aren't we using this to do two things? One, to educate our community about EDA and the various programs, and then to use available online tools to share with the world. So we agreed to do this regular show, speaking about EDA and inviting folks to the marketplace. This particular segment is to share on one aspect of our marketing strategy. And it is referred to as a targeted marketing, meaning instead of being scattered in our approach to get the word out about EDA and our various programs, we decided to speak to groups of companies who do this. Well, we found one, and Oxford Intelligence is an incredible organization who do targeted marketing for other economic development agencies, and they're very global. And we wanted the best. And Andrew Klutz, who is our guest today, represents Oxford Intelligence. He is actually a member of the team. I call him an EDA family member. You know, you have some long distance relatives, and every once in a while they come and visit. Well, he's been here a lot. And Andrew is really someone that I think has taken to heart the message of the Virgin Islands and the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority. So I'd like for Andrew to just give a little overview today, Anthony, about his company and how his company has now been integrated in this targeted marketing approach. So welcome, Andrew.
Sure. Well, welcome to the Virgin Islands, and thank you so much for doing your part to help move the Virgin Islands forward.
It's an absolute pleasure. Once again, I'm very pleased to be back down in the territory.
Fantastic.
So it's great to come down here and work with very professional folks at the EDA and the other parties that we work with.
But here's a tricky question. I have a tricky question for you. What's your favorite part? What do you like most about the Virgin Islands?
I love
Am I putting you on the spot?
I love seafood.
Ah.
So I can have seafood every night.
Absolutely.
And you know what he does? He goes out and eat everywhere that he can.
Yes.
Oh, really?
The food is fabulous.
So you like the local cuisine?
Absolutely.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
And he's not really a stranger, you know. He's been coming to the Virgin Islands for a while. So he's been a member of the family for a while. But now he's even, you know how we say in the Caribbean, he's more inside the family now. So he's really, truly no longer a visitor.
So prior to your formal engagement with the EDA, what was the perception of the U.S. Virgin Islands? You work strategically with other economic development entities. What was your understanding or perception of the Virgin Islands?
Yeah, just a little background on Oxford Intelligence. We're a global firm. We're headquartered in the United Kingdom, with offices in the United States, also in India, Netherlands, Paris, and we've worked with over 200 development agencies from around the world, in Asia, across Europe, North America, the Caribbean, Latin America as well. So we've we've known a lot of agencies over the years. We've known tons of companies who have been looking at various locations.
So you bring a wealth of experience to the Virgin Islands.
We've seen it all.
Okay.
We've seen it all across, from very heavy industrial manufacturing to the highest technology, and even things in between, such as food and consumer goods. And obviously, the types of projects have to match the assets of the location. That's one of the key things
Yes.
about our discussions that we had early on with the EDA was I need to understand more about your assets. And obviously over time I've gotten to know those assets quite well, and this is what we're really working on selling. So coming back to your first question about the perception of the U.S. Virgin Islands. As I said, there are literally hundreds or thousands of economic development agencies around the globe
Yes.
competing for projects, mobile investment projects. This means that any company that we are talking to today is likely to be talking to at least a half dozen or more
Same audience.
jurisdictions.
Same audience.
So one has to understand that it's a very competitive environment, and over the past, I'd say that the U.S. Virgin Islands was known, but perhaps not as well known as, say, some of the other island locations, or some of the other locations in the Americas. But over time, what we've tried to do is not sort of blast the media and blast the press with the message about the U.S. Virgin Islands, but selectively and target and using selective targets to get the message out to key companies in key sectors that reflect the assets of the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we've gone in and we've focused on things like hotel and resort development, finance and asset management, IT, software development, call centers, back office processing, and of course, light manufacturing and logistics. One has to understand that the U.S. Virgin Islands is not a marketplace. It's only 110,000 people. So what we focus on promoting the U.S. Virgin Islands is it an access point to the Americas, an efficient access point, both from a tax perspective as well as a logistical access point. You've got you're 1,200 miles from Miami, you're 1,000 miles from the Panama Canal, so you have access to the Asian markets, and we sit just above Latin America. We were recently doing some promotional work in Europe, and obviously access to the Americas as a whole, and not just one particular location, is important to these European companies. So that is a very compelling and interesting point. We're also seeing that there are a number of companies who have perhaps gone, quote unquote, offshore. Mm-hmm. Many operations, IT operations, call center operations, things of this nature, have moved to India, to other locations, lower cost locations around the world. Mm-hmm. What we're beginning to see is those manufacturing, call center, back office processing are beginning to reshore, meaning they're coming back to the U.S. This is an opportunity for the U.S. Virgin Islands to capture some of that investment, because the actual experience in those locations, while it was low cost, it was not a quality experience, and they were not able to deliver the quality to their customers. There was dissatisfaction in the marketplace. So there are a number of projects that are beginning to look back at the United States. And obviously, the U.S. Virgin Islands is part of the United States, and that's something we proudly promote to our clients overseas. Being part of the U.S. system, legal system, currency, etc.
You raised some very interesting points, and of course, my colleague, in her capacity as co-host on the show, and we talked about off camera. We talked about the tools.
Yes.
Of the EDA, but here's what I want you to think about. Jennifer, I want you to kind of wrap your mind around this. You used words like assets, but if I was to ask you, if you were to describe the product, what would that product be? If someone says, okay, what is really the U.S. Virgin Islands about? You made a good point that by sheer numbers, we're not going to be attractive because we just don't have the numbers, all right? But you talk about strategic access. We are the second largest landing station of fiber cables, okay, in the world. But if someone was to say to you, okay, potential customer, contemplating a chairman CEO making a move, they know nothing about the Virgin Islands. Like Jennifer said, they go on Google and they say, okay, where do I go? What would that product be?
Well, if you talk about the broadband asset that you have, I mean, from what we understand, it's the fastest broadband location point in North America. This is a very, very attractive piece of or an asset that can be leveraged and sold to many companies who are looking to set up everything from call centers to data centers to IT development locations. This asset, with the implementation of the next generation network throughout the island territory, means that it's just not a location in one part of the island, but you can literally get this access point and this speed anywhere in the territory. This is an incredible asset.
And just to add to that, Anthony, it was so interesting that one point in selling the benefits and features of the Virgin Islands as a place to do business is the new opportunities that the broadband initiatives are going to provide to for the Virgin Islands to become truly competitive in the global marketplace. As I'm beginning to understand that, I've said to Andrew, how can we use this asset to sell to the world that not only do we have smart, educated people in our workplace, but we now have an asset that some of our competitors don't have. The ability to transmit data when the broadband next generation internet our project is completed is what the world is looking for in technology, and it will be right here in the Virgin Islands.
And that's exactly to my point.
Yeah.
My point is, every Caribbean destination, and by the way, the Caribbean is now competing with the Asian and the Pacific destination as well, Brandon destination, that every island can claim that they have the best beach, white sand, coconut trees and palm trees and whatnot. Everybody can claim that. Nothing new,
Sure.
Old. We just lost our largest private sector contributor in the oil refinery part of Hovenza. And so we have to kind of say to the rest of the world, as we're competing, what is that niche?
Right.
What is that unique product we have that none of them, your other competitor, can say they have that?
Right.
Which gives us that competitive advantage.
That's where the broadband is one thing.
Right.
Add in the beneficiary programs, the tax incentives. It's a very tax efficient location for companies. That's number two. Skilled labor. You can get access to skilled employees here. U.S. system. Not all the islands in the Caribbean can claim that it's part of the U.S. system. You also have a very strong finance and asset management base in the territory. These are all things that have helped to develop key cluster locations like Boston,
Right.
Silicon Valley. They're the seeds to help grow and foster technology companies for the future. And these things together, sometimes individually, but together, should be leveraged to enhance the competitiveness and the economic growth of the territory.
Right.
Not to mention the sun, the beaches.
We throw that in.
Yeah, I
throw
mean
that in.
that's
Yeah.
just the icing.
Who
As
else
the
have
ice thing.
this?
Right.
Yeah, who else have this? I'd like to ask Andrew a question with regards to a recent targeted focus that we were putting in place as part of our marketing initiative to the world. Andrew, recently some members of the EDA team took the opportunity to be in Europe to sell the assets, and let me be careful in saying to sell the asset, to sell the benefits and show the benefits of the assets in the territory, such as our incentive program, such as our broadband initiatives. And we also, in that effort, which was really handled by you, showcase to some companies. Talk to us about that recent UK efforts that you created an opportunity for the Virgin Islands EDA.
Yeah, the initiative was really twofold. There was a visit for a couple of days to London in the United Kingdom, and a team from the EDA, including the CEO and our chairman and several others, traveled over to the UK to present to a large group of companies who were interested in expanding into the Caribbean and wanted to learn more about the U.S. Virgin Islands and its proposition vis-a-vis setting up a business. These were companies that ranged from asset management companies, IT companies, call centers, even some companies within the renewable energy sector, such as solar, PV, wind energy, things of that nature. So we hosted an event where we were able to present. We had several presenters speaking about the opportunities, the programs, how one could leverage the assets within the territory. In addition to that, we also set up one-to-one meetings, so where we actually sat down separately in a room, one-to-one with the companies, to talk specifically about their projects. What were their interests vis-a-vis the U.S. Virgin Islands? How could we as the EDA help them gather information, educate them about the process, share information about labor costs, costs of living, access to finance, all the things that companies need to know to make an investment location decision. And that was really just the beginning of a relationship with these companies. And it's really key to have this face-to-face relationship, because as I said in the beginning, there are literally hundreds of development agencies who are bombarding these companies with information about their particular jurisdiction. What we want to do, as we said, is have targeted marketing exercises like this and begin to build inroads in relationships with companies. At the end, the best location will win, the best organization that services them, answers their questions, and is able to present a low-risk option for the growth of their business. And that's really what we're trying to achieve here. Mm-hmm. So that visit was just the beginning of a process that will play out over the next months and for some even years. But nonetheless, even within 1 month, we've already had one of the companies from London come to visit us and talk about a sales and logistics facility in the pharmaceutical arena.
Jennifer, we in the wake of the closure of the Hovensa refinery, part of the refinery, the processing of the refinery, you have a number of families and individuals who worked at Hovensa who are now saying, okay, what do I do now? Right. Do I just simply pack up my goods, my stuff, and take my families elsewhere? Or is there a way to, like the president said, that we are a country of pioneers, the entrepreneur spirit. Instead of thinking about looking for a job, maybe you want to say, don't go anywhere, maybe open your own business. And when you look at the EDA, and as I'm listening to Andrew talk about marketing, what if there are companies locally that was emerged locally, that they have products and services that they can sell? Maybe the local market isn't there, like Andrew said, it's not the marketplace, but the global marketplace. Is there any thoughts, any vision for assisting startups, existing companies who would like to now expand their product or services in under an EDC type partnership?
Let me jump right in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
When Andrew was talking about targeted marketing approach to bringing partners in to the territory, to take the assets that we have and roll it into.
Because those businesses are assets. When we
Yes.
talk about assets,
So-
what
so-
are some of those unique companies that have a product that can be exported?
Right. Well, you know, and you're using words like exports, and and I'm excited to tell you about when you talk about marketing globally and then marketing locally. Within the EDA, there are several opportunities available to our folks who have always dreamed of starting their own business. We have been doing some marketing locally, as we call it, boots on the ground, getting into communities, speaking to groups, speaking to organization, sending the word out to even to some of those former employees who were at Havensa, and not just Havensa, because keep in
we
mind,
just use them as examples.
Yeah, and I say not only Havensa, because the focus ought to be on people who have always had an idea that they believe they can grow and make money from. Entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are people who start up things and watch it grow and bloom. The next segment of our show, coming weeks, we're going to have a focus specifically on some initiative for entrepreneurial activities.
So that's a roundtable.
That's going to be
discussion.
a roundtable discussion because what I want to do with that next segment of our shows is to show that EDA is also doing a two-pronged marketing strategy. We believe that we ought to be growing also from within our community. In this community that traditionally, I said this a few weeks ago to another audience, that traditionally the Virgin Islands have been entrepreneurs, you know. There is this perception that all of us just simply want to work for someone else. That's not true. There are folks in this community today who are the results of their parents and grandparents being entrepreneurs, who have taken an idea, seeded it, got some support, probably gathered all the little resources they had family-wise, and have grown their business. A lot of them around us, in St. Thomas and St. Croix, in St. John. We want to sort of re-stimulate that entrepreneurial spirit and grow this community from inside as well. So in the upcoming shows, we're going to talk about our incubator initiative program that's going to be housed within our industrial park. We're going to be talking about the partnership that we're going to be establishing with the University of Virgin Islands New Entrepreneurial Center, which is a fantastic opportunity for Virgin Islanders to truly become business people that we have traditionally always been. There are some young, brilliant minds in our community who I always say to them when I get the opportunity through, you know, everything else that we do at EDA. We speak to groups, we speak to audience, we go to school, we talk to young people. I feel like in the Virgin Islands, there are some Bill Gates just waiting for that opportunity. There are some geniuses who take little gadgets and turn it into ideas and stuff that can become the next Microsoft project or initiative. They are right here. We want to seed them now and watch them grow through the initiatives and help support that.
Absolutely.
So part of what we're doing also in this targeted marketing idea that Andrew made reference to is that as we are talking to the world, we're also saying to the world business community, as you come, understand that part of our goal is to also invite you to help partner in an expansion of current businesses that exist, but also to create
Through a partnership.
Through partnership.
Matching companies with local businesses
That's
to
right.
find synergy for
and create
creating
growth.
Yeah.
And create growth.
Investment and economic development comes in many different shapes
That's
and
right.
sizes.
Right.
And depending on the maturity of the company, we may have a very large company that can come and set up a large facility and invest all their own money. Others may be looking for a strategic partner.
Absolutely.
This does not mean that this little strategic partnership is any less important.
Right.
It could be the next big thing, especially in the technology space. So we have to be mindful of that, and we have to leverage all different types of opportunities. It's the mix of investment that will secure the future for the territory.
Absolutely. Jennifer, what do you got there? I see you
Anthony, I am
some kind
so
of T-shirt.
listen.
Is that my?
No, Anthony, I'm sorry, I can't give you this one yet.
I thought you were.
A member of our team, Paul Arnold, who handles some of our projects efforts, was at a workshop a few weeks ago, and he came back full of excitement. We're part of the International Economic Development Council, and he was at the session that was focused on the power of knowledge and leadership in economic development strategy. And he came back with this T-shirt, and I hope we can pick up on this T-shirt. And it says, "Job fairies don't bring jobs. Economic developers do."
I love it.
I am going to be making copies of this T-shirt, and this is going to be our new theme.
I love it.
Because Anthony, when you're talking about using the assets that we have to sell the benefits and features of our community, at the end of the day, it's all about economic development. And you know, the job fairies, I pray, have good sprinkle dust, as some folks like to say, and they sprinkle and we create jobs.
Yes.
But you know, at the EDA, we're economic developers. Every member of our team at EDA, from the gentleman that helps to keep our facilities clean, to the ladies who help to get the loans out through the lending division, to the park superintendent who ensured the industrial park is prepared and ready for light manufacturing companies to come in. We are marketing to the world, and I keep telling people it's about economic development. And I want our community, Anthony, to know that the Economic Development Authority is convinced that the job we must do is a big job. It's a big thing, as we say. A big thing, as we say colloquially. And because we see this as personal, you know, we have a theme that we've been using at EDA that says, you know, we're creating jobs and economic growth for friends and families. I want people to know friends and family is a community. You know, my friends and my families are big and broad in this community. So what we do at EDA is benefiting our community. It has to be. Absolutely. So, you know, as we sort of wrap up this session, where we talk about marketing and targeted marketing, and I'm thankful that our guest, Mr. Andrew Klutz from Oxford Intelligence, could join us today, Anthony. I want to say thank you and for the work that you're doing.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it very much on behalf of the team. But Anthony, as we sort of wrap up and head to where we're going to talk about the next upcoming series,
yes.
I just want to quickly put a teaser out there. Sure. The next show, Focus on the Marketplace, is going to have two members of our team. We are coming up with some exciting activities for our community. Mm-hmm. One of it is going to be a small hotel summit. Wow. It's going to be a one-day discussion.
The cottage industry?
Well, let me tell you,
bed and breakfast. Are we going down?
We're heading in that direction.
Nice.
That one focus is not a tourism related discussion, but more of an economic development strategy using our small hotels. Absolutely. And what we can do to help stimulate that. So that's the next show. And one following that show, Anthony, which you and I co-hosting, I'm going to have two other members of the team. We've just completed our first phase of our community, getting the stakeholders in our communities to respond to the town plan. This specific part of our town plan is focusing on Frederiksted. So we're going to come and tell the community about where we are in this process, because we need their input in the town plan. EDA is truly about economic development. So I thank you, Anthony,
wonderful,
again.
Wonderful. I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to folks coming in and being part of the conversation.
That's right.
Because that's what we're having. We're having a conversation. We're going to explore ways to come up with solutions for what that's facing us today. Again, I want to thank you, Andrew, Mr. Klutz, for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
Of course, Jennifer, thank you so much
As
for
always,
hosting, of course.
You're a great host. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Folks, again, this is Anthony Weeks for the EDA Focus in the Marketplace. Have a wonderful day. Until our next installment, take care.